Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'll discuss a cool looking headphone amplifier that is handcrafted in Slovenia by someone I deeply respect, by Blaž Erzetich of Erzetich Audio. So there is a little bit of bias, but please don't worry, I'll be super honest in this review and I'll deliver both pluses and minuses. This one is called Bacillus 2 Plus and it currently goes for 19.99 euros, but don't panic yet because at the end of this video, Santa and Sando will deliver you a pretty nice discount code for the first 5 buyers for this one and also for its smaller brother Bacillus 2. So let's check it out. Design-wise, just look at it and tell me if you saw anything similar in the world of headphone amplifiers. Although it doesn't occupy lots of desktop space, at 3 kilos, this is heavier than my expectancy levels, already suggesting a high quality craftsmanship. We have acrylic panels on all 3 sides, a full metal enclosure that will absorb all those nasty wireless interferences, and of course these pretty nice looking wooden accents. We have some massive looking metallic feet with rubber inlays that will absorb those nasty micro vibrations coming from within. Moving on to controls, this is a straightforward unit, so we have just a big volume knob. By the way, this is a CNC machined volume knob made from aluminum, exactly in the middle, that will show you the volume position. We have an on-off button right here, we have an input selector, an output selector, and of course 2 headphone jacks coming in balanced and unbalanced flavors. On its back there is just a pair of RCA and XLR inputs, and that is pretty much it. One important aspect that many of you overlook, but these guys didn't, the quality of RCA and XLR inputs, the quality of the AC socket, and of course that 6.35mm and 4-pin XLR socket, all of them are of higher quality than usual. For example, that's a Furutech AC socket and those are CMC RCAs, and all the internal wiring uses silver-plated oxygen-free copper. All of these were used to preserve signal's purity and of course keep the internal resistance as low as possible. Under its hood I got most of the surprises, which I'll be showing to you immediately. The signal path is easy to follow even for someone that doesn't understand PCB design, and the unit is not populated with hundreds of components, getting a shorter signal path. 2 encapsulated linear transformers will be powering its amplifier modules. The filtering stage follows next with a decent capacitance, storing current for stronger dynamics. The third transformer powers the auxiliary circuits like the input and output switches and also the on-off button. We have a 4-pole Alps Blue Velvet pot, already suggesting that a fully balanced circuit follows. A gain stage wasn't implemented for the cleanest possible signal, but we still have 2 ohm-RON relays at the input and output for a perfect channel balance. As for the dual mono amplifier modules, the input stage is first cleaned up by an obligado gold premium audio capacitor, followed by a deep 8 socketed LME 49720 op-amp that splits the unbalanced signal into a balanced one. A couple of resistors later we see the next socketed LME 49720 op-amp that handles the input preamp stage. The final stage consists of 2 incredibly powerful LME 49600 high current audio buffers that provide up to 250 mA each, so 1 ampere output in total. And just like that, from the AC input to analog output, this little amp proves that you don't need a complicated circuit to craft boutique headphone amplifiers. There is, however, one big elephant in the room. On paper, this one provides just 314 mW of power per channel via its balanced output and half that number via the regular headphone jack. And I'm not really sure what happened, but after I started connecting all sorts of headphones, I rarely went past its 12 o'clock position with both my dynamic and planar headphones. So I'm not really sure if I need to praise someone or maybe criticize other amp builders that are basically inflating their numbers, but this one was able to drive all of my headphones except for 2, which I'll mention in a second. Okay guys, so how does this little bacteria sound with all sorts of headphones? But since it was gearing up for a family reunion, the very first headphones that I tried were, of course, the Erzetich Phobos and also the Erzetich Charybdis, which are without a doubt the easiest to drive planar headphones that you can buy right now. At least from my headphones table, these are clearly the easiest to drive planar headphones that I have. With the Charybdis, I immediately got a strong rush of dopamine, and clearly they sounded absolutely great with the Bacillus 2 Plus. What struck me is that I could never go past its 10 o'clock volume position with both Charybdis and Phobos, leaving simply an unlimited amount of headroom on top, even only with 314 milliwatts of power under its hood. The second part that hit me like a storm was its unconventional transparency and also detailed retrieval. This one was definitely a little bit cleaner sounding compared to, say, a Half-Man Prelude or a Live Harmony HP2A headphone amplifiers. That was actually quite unusual. I didn't expect that, but clearly it was providing a little bit more information on the micro scale. Although it never tried to juggle with the frequency response and aimed to be as honest as possible to the source material, I observed that the resolution refused to decline as most op-amp based amplifiers would do at this point. In the world of op-amps, the LME line from Texas Instruments are regarded as some of the cleanest sounding operational amplifiers, and I can certainly attest that a higher dose of transparency was propelled forward every time I was listening to music. Last but not least, it's really unusual getting these powerful dopamine rushes and impressive dynamics from an amplifier that can push only 340 milliwatts of power. So clearly not all watts are made the same. Some amplifiers are blessed with more powerful watts compared to others, and that seems to be the case with the Bacillus 2 Plus. It will certainly revitalize several planar headphones, and it does that without consuming lots of power and without dissipating lots of heat. This puppy consumes just 9 watts, and yet the sound feels powerful in the lowest octaves and tightly controlled when things get messy. Let's talk about power in more detail. I recently got a pair of Half-Man Susvara Unveiled, and the hunt for that perfect amplifier just started, and yes, you can expect an overkill Susvara Unveiled review to come soon, I presume around January. I still regard my T+A Solitaire P a little bit higher in terms of dynamics, engagement factor and fun factor. Those are definitely providing me a little bit more fun times. Those are also my second hardest to drive headphones that I have in my possession, and yes, they need quite a bit of power coming from your desktop headphone amplifier. And even before connecting them to this little fellow right here, it was already rubbing its hands and it was already smiling from the shadows. Because the moment I connected them, I couldn't go past that 12 o'clock volume position. It was already very loud. I was arriving at 95 dB SPL, and the surprising part is that the bass was tightly controlled. It was not all over the place. It was not too much or too little, just right, and it was not distorted at all. I went a little louder and still the sound was very tight and undistorted, which was actually quite a big surprise. But how about dynamic headphones? I used the Sennheiser HD800S, and the maximum volume I could reach was about 11 o'clock and a half. But the interesting part is that the bass, quantity-wise, was a little bit nicer, was a little bit more of it. So it worked a little better with dynamic headphones, with high impedance dynamic headphones. So I'm pretty sure it will behave very similarly with high impedance dynamic headphones, boosting just a little bit the low end while tightly controlling that upper treble delivery. The only two headphones from my stable that didn't work were the Half-Man Susvara Unveiled and also the Half-Man Susvara, the original one. I was arriving at around 3 o'clock position, and that was the moment when the bass was no longer controlled, it was distorting. Clearly the amplifier was clipping, it was not able to deliver the amount of current that these headphones demand for that tight and distortionless bass performance. The first generation Bacillus that I have tested some 5 years ago, oh my god, 5 years ago, was actually quite a noisy sounding amplifier, regardless of the volume, regardless of the IEMs that I was listening to, regardless of the music. It was quite noisy sounding with my IEMs. But I'm ready for round two. We have a much better power supply implementation, we have a much better filtering stage, and noise suppression mechanics feel much stronger on the newest unit. Some of you are still using ultra-sensitive IEMs with desktop headphone amplifiers, so why not? Let's try some of them on this unit. So I tried the FiO FA19, but most of the time it was the FiO FH19. These are more sensitive at 110 dB per a single milliwatt of power. These were bad news for most desktop headphone amplifiers that I tried this year. For high-frequency prelude, for live harmony HP2A, for bar sound designs, all of them were actually debunked by these little tiny IEMs. So I did the same thing. I connected them directly to the 4-pin XLR output. We don't have a gain stage, so it's just the stock gain. I started listening to music, and to my surprise it was completely dead silent. I started inserting and disconnecting these IEMs, and again nothing changed. It was completely dead silent. And then I went full power, maximum power, and again I couldn't detect anything playing in the background. So this is quite a big deal, because even the benchmark HPA4 wasn't as clean, even the topping A90D wasn't as clean. And this is actually a pretty big deal, because I don't remember testing any other headphone amplifier in the last 2 years or so that has such a low noise floor, that is such a IEM friendly unit. So yes, you can use easily your entire IEM collection with this little guy. You can blast, full power, and still you'll damage your hearing, of course, in IEMs, but you'll get no noise whatsoever. Alright guys, let's talk about dynamics. I went back to Charybdis because these two are working really nice together. I have nothing to complain about this combo. If you have the Charybdis, this is a very easy recommendation to make. But still, let's talk about dynamics. So this time around I didn't use the usual suspects, some electronic tunes, but I used an unusual track that an audiophile would never use. It's raw, it's noisy, it's mixed and mastered like crap. The channel crosstalk is higher than usual. It's the last song a sane person would use to test hi-fi grade electronics. But oh man, it's so incredibly fun. It's mean, it's punchy, it's electrifying. Little Black Submarines by the Black Keys is the pure definition of madness. At the 2-minute and 5-second mark, prepare for a hi-fi fluster clock. Drums go wild, guitars are being smashed while still playing, the guitar solos feel close and personal, yet so strong and biting. This is what I would call an electrifying track that refuses to calm down. The Little Bacillus was pushing those dynamics high with both the Charybdis and also with the Phobos, and even if I've heard some crazier dynamics and harder slamming headphone amplifiers, those are usually bigger, weightier, and also pricier as well. Dynamics and massive power reserves usually go hand in hand, but that is not always the case, and the Little Bacillus proves it. The case size, weight, and power reserves are sometimes meaningless, and it seems that Bacillus 2 Plus is reinforcing this truth once again. But how about the soundstage imaging and stereo separation? First of all, I need to mention that Erzetich Charybdis have one of the biggest soundstages that I have experienced via headphones. It's like having some small speakers attached to your ears, and you can simply experience this soundstage. And finally, words like soundstage, stereo separation, and depth have a meaning on open back headphones. But of course, that soundstage and that depth can go bigger or smaller, more impressive or less impressive, depending on what you are connecting these headphones to. Go with a small dongle or with an entry-level digital audio player, and the sound will go smaller, not that impressive. Go with a desktop headphone amplifier that uses negative feedback, and again the sound will be slightly less impressive, more lifeless, more boring, more 2D sounding in a way. But go with a desktop headphone amplifier that is not staying in the way of the signal, and watch them fly off and unleash their maximum potential. Simply put, the sound staging capabilities of this amplifier are great, there is no other way to say it. It's a little bit more impressive in here compared to a similarly priced Ferrum Audio or headphone amplifier with the stock power supply. It's more impressive than a Barson Solist GT3, but at the same time is not as 3D and holographic sounding like the Live Harmony HP2A compared to Hyphaman Prelude compared to Barson Voyager, but let's not forget the price difference. Let's talk a little about its resolution / detail retrieval. And right off the bat, it was providing a healthy dose of micro detail information. Everything was going up. I started hearing those notes here, there, and everywhere, and I didn't need to close my eyes or to focus on anything. Really, everything was very, very obvious. What's interesting is that these guys, Erzetich Audio, they try to lower the noise floor as much as possible. We have a very short signal path. We have an auxiliary third transformer that powers everything else, and two transformers that are powering only those amplifier modules. So clearly they try to simplify this circuit as much as possible, retaining that cleanness of the signal, and that's exactly what I'm getting with this amplifier. This is a highly resolving amplifier, but without getting harsh and clinical sounding. It's definitely on the same level with something like Benchmark HP4, Sparkos Labs Aries, Topping A90 Discrete, even Barson Audio Soloist Voyager. What's more interesting is that the Hyphaman Prelude and also Live Harmony HPA2A, two amplifiers which I liked very much with harder to drive headphones, couldn't deliver the same level of transparency and resolution as this little guy provided. Shocking, maybe, but that was to be expected, knowing how crowded those PCBs were. Moving on to frequency response, the bass was there in right doses, and sometimes I felt that there's enough muscle mass, but at the same time it was not really one of those super mean and punchy and hard slamming amplifiers with harder to drive headphones. Although it was enough, even more than enough, with something like Erzetich Phobos, Charybdis, and Sennheiser HD800S, with harder to drive headphones, I felt that it was not providing that amazing bass delivery, especially quantity-wise. On the plus side, regardless of what headphones I was using, I never felt that the bass was going all over the place, that the quality of the bass went lower, that I've got some kind of distortion, except on super difficult loads such as Hyphaman Susvara and Susvara Unveiled. Perhaps the only region that wasn't juiced up the way I like it was the mid-range region. And once again, I'm reminding that I'm no longer pursuing those perfect measurements, or I'm no longer a neutrality seeker. I'm more for the fun times. And that's why I recently started using tube amplifiers of all sorts and also discrete amplifiers biased into Class A operation. While our little test subject is neither of those, it can still pump some life into those musical instruments, but not as much to grab my soul and walk me down the memory lane. On the flip side, this one is not providing that dreadful thin mid-range that entry to mid-level Chi-Fi amplifiers are providing. The vocals never felt recessed or nasal sounding, and there's considerably more life and meat on the bone. Compared to some of those fully discrete headphone amplifiers that I tried as of late, like Hyphaman Prelude, like Live Harmony HPA2, this one puts on display a higher dose of trebles, quantity and quality-wise as well. And that is its plus side and also its downfall. On the plus side, you can hear additional nuances. The trebles are clearly more extended. There is more information everywhere else, not only in the treble. On the flip side, it simply demands more of your attention. So it's not really that easygoing, smooth sounding amplifier, and a bad headphone pairing is likely to happen. For example, it nicely controlled the treble output from that Erzetich Charybdis and Sennheiser HD800S, but it was not the best pairing with any of the Hyphaman headphones. Wrapping up, the one and only complaint I have with this one is that weak power output. And yeah, it's not looking that great on the spec sheet, and right there it already limits some of your headphone choices. All of those high-end Abyss headphones, DC Stealth and Expanse, all those Hyphaman upper creations cannot work with this one. But at the same time, it was created to drive their own line of headphones, Mania, Phobos and Charybdis, which it does very, very well. While it doesn't sweeten things up in the mid-range and doesn't offer those strong doses of dopamine with bright tilted headphones, it was an amazing pairing with Sennheiser HD800S and also with the Solitaire P by T+A. I could never believe that a third of a watt could decently power the Solitaire P and also the HD800S while retaining 50% of power on top. It didn't make any sense, but it's a clear sign that not all watts are made equal. If you're already thinking about a Christmas gift for yourself, let me ease the wallet damage for you. I teamed up with Erzetich Audio for a 15% discount for the first 5 buyers for the Bacillus 2 and also for the Bacillus 2 Plus. Just use this promo code and a 15% discount will be automatically applied at checkout. Before I go, I want to thank you all for watching and for reading our content. It means a lot to me, so thank you for your support. It will be repaid back one way or the other. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2025.